Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
A reminder that our title sponsor, Donnie and Dolly, Able Auctions. Just before we get to Farhan, this I didn't know this. Shade in sunny Steveston.
Yeah.
Fun fact. Peter Forsberg made just as much money as an early investor in Crocs as he did playing hockey.
Really? In Sweden?
Well, I'm not sure where he made the initial investment. I'm thinking he was still in North America. I'm not sure where he's living right now. But I hadn't heard that. Peter Forsberg has a relationship with Crocs.
I'm not a Croc guy. I'm a flip-flop.
Yeah.
Flip-flops.
Or as I called them growing up.
Sandals.
And you often flip-flop on this show, so it's perfect.
Sandals.
No, thongs.
Thongs,
yeah. Remember that? Anybody?
Yeah.
Of course, you think thong now, it means something
Dolly
else.
also wears those as well.
I don't get this Croc thing.
Speaking of which.
They're too heavy. I don't get them.
Speaking of which, Farhan Lalji, Lord knows what he's wearing right now, joins us now. Farhan, thanks for doing this. TSN, how are you?
There you go right there.
But Farhan's one of these guys. I've known Farhan for a long time. Mid-December, shorts, flip-flops.
Yeah.
It's quite amazing.
Yeah, no, that'll happen.
Flip-flops all the way.
Yeah, you know what? I've never got into the Crocs. My 13-year-old has a pair of Canadian Crocs. It's a white Croc with a Canadian flag on it that he wears with pride all the time. And, we were at the outlets down by Seattle there, and they have a Croc store. So I don't know that Rick would ever go in it, but just every type of Croc that you want. The first pair of Crocs I ever bought him was a pair of Lightning McQueen Crocs because he was big in the cars.
Yeah.
That was a thing when he was about 4 years old. So he's been a Crocs kid for a while.
Yeah. Well, one day maybe him and Derek can get together and reminisce about Crocs. Hey, Farhan, do you have respect for the Rangers organization and the rebuild letter going back to 2018, not that long ago? They had a focus. It seems to be working.
Yeah, it does, and it's not necessarily an elite lineup quite yet, even though they certainly looked that way in game one of this series. But yeah, I mean, they were transparent with what they were doing. And isn't that all we ever wanted from the Vancouver Canucks for the longest time, right? Just some meaningful, consistent messaging, reasonable messaging, a semblance of a plan. And we just didn't get that for so long once Trevor Linden left the organization. And now we should have it with Jim Rutherford here. And I know that everybody's excited about the front office that's been built out and what the plan could potentially look like and improvements to player development, things like that. And when you look at what they did, in the young talent, look at their third line right now, which is all 22 and under right now, led by Alexis Lafreniere. Young players that are making a difference right now. They've got an elite goaltender they can lean on, and certainly they've done that from time to time. But yeah, the Canucks have leaned on their young goaltender, but just everything that's out in front of them looks so much different. So yeah, I applaud them for being transparent and for having a plan because there's not enough of that in this league.
As for the Canucks, you touched on this. They added to their player development staff this week. They've beefed up in all management areas. Farhan, is there strength in numbers?
Well, you'd think so, right? And it's a bit of a Toronto Maple Leaf approach, right, in terms of creating, a number of different silos within your organization and having a number of people within those to get different voices, and then you kind of bring the leaders to the table and do it that way. So I like what they're doing that way. And, I didn't know that they'd ever get to this point, right, as far as an organization. I mean, we weren't sure if ownership would spend what was required. Everybody spends to the cap, but in terms of front office resources, they did under Mike Gillis, but we haven't necessarily seen it here. We weren't even sure if they'd go so far as to hire a president, and do it that way. And not only did they hire a president, but a number of assistant GMs, a number of additional resources on the analytics side, in the player development side, all of it. So it's good to see.
Farhan, let's talk a little football. The CFL season not too far away. In fact, it started. The Lions were in Calgary. They didn't. They played a ton of rookies. And the Stampeders had, I think, 7, 8, 9 more practices during the strike, what have you. But your thoughts on the Lions' preseason opener in Calgary?
Yeah, I wasn't too concerned about it. In fact, I was impressed for most of the first half, right? I mean, this game was 6-0. All BC Lions backups. Like, none of those players are going to start against virtually a completely veteran Calgary team, which most teams tend to do at home. And you'll see more of that from the Lions this Friday as well when they play at home. And it was 6-6 until 27 seconds to go in the first half, right? So I was impressed with that, just how competitive and gritty the defensive players were. And offensively, they were able to move the ball a little bit, even though they weren't able to get into scoring position for either quarterback. So I thought it was fine. It kind of got away from them a little bit in the second half. But again, I mean, it was a chance to evaluate. And I think more a chance for coaches to evaluate. As far as fans and their evaluation, I think you'll get more of that Friday with a meaningful roster in terms of what we'll see on opening night.
Okay, I want to ask you about opening night. Do you have any idea of ticket sales for the opener yet? Or
well, I saw that the club announced that they've sold every suite.
The suites are sold out. Yeah,
the suites are sold out, but not tickets. Here's the problem, right? For every team in the league, that labor dispute basically put tickets to a standstill for 2 weeks. Right? From the moment it got deep into negotiations and people started getting nervous and then a strike happened and the deal didn't get ratified, during all of that, I think fans started paying attention to what was happening, got frustrated, and just didn't buy tickets, right? Like, call us when it's over. So I think now they're really having to start and accelerate a little bit. So I know that the owners made a big commitment, getting One Republic here for that first game and the pregame event that they're going to do and things like that, which is great. And you want to get to a point where you can see things like that weekly, but you're not going to see it weekly if it doesn't work the first time. So hopefully they can find a way. But I haven't really been given an indication as to what the magic number is today. I know earlier they were happy with their season ticket renewals and single game seat sales. But again, that was prior to 2 weeks ago when things kind of shut down league-wide, not just here in BC.
Yeah.
Whatever they do, it has to be. I can't remember if we talked about this or not, Farhan, but it has to be better than what the USFL is up to. Those games look horrible on television.
Yeah, they do, and some of that is by design. Not that they've designed nobody would come, but the fact that all the games are being played in one location, I think they knew that, except when Birmingham played, nobody was going to come watch, right? And ultimately, if you can still make it a game that's well-rated on television and takes hold in the gambling space, then maybe it's worth it, and it's part of more of a long-term growth model. But I know their ratings have certainly trended down. They're sitting in around the 500,000 range. They were under that for all their games last weekend. Which isn't necessarily great. So, we'll see where it goes. I'm not necessarily a believer in that model. I get why they did it to keep all those travel costs down, but certainly when you watch on TV, it doesn't look good. And so much of what we know in the NFL, and the NFL is a great product. Let's not kid ourselves, but a big part of that product is full stadiums, right? And the event around a game, and clearly there's none of that here, and that does resonate with American viewers.
Has this gone by the wayside? Are the Seahawks going to sign Cam Newton?
Nope. Doesn't sound like they are at all. I think there was some interest a year ago when Russell Wilson got hurt. But I don't believe there's any interest. I think there's still a possibility that Baker Mayfield would sign with Seattle if, in fact, Cleveland decided to cut him. But it's sounding increasingly less and less likely that that's going to happen because they're quite concerned about what the penalty is going to be, the number of games suspended for Deshaun Watson. And you better have a credible quarterback, and Baker Mayfield can at least give you that, even if some bridges have been burned here. So they may not cut him. So right now they're kind of staring at each other, but I don't think Seattle's going to trade for him, and I don't think Cam Newton's part of the plan at all in Seattle.
Put your sandal back on. Thanks for joining us, Farhan. Appreciate it, my friend.
Thanks for this, guys. Have a good weekend.
You bet.